Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am crazy super excited about my guest today, Donna Cravotta. She's a fellow New Yorker, and we met a few months ago, and we've been speaking on and off, and I truly adore her. She's become one of my heart people. And because she is from New York and she has a New York accent, I'm going to be talking like this really soon, so it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. But for now, I'm going to read her bio and bring her on. So Donna Cravotta is the CEO and founder of Cravotta Media Group and the creator of the mixtape brand story video reels, the Be Visible Club, a group learning community, and the Real 50 Over 50, the Wisdom Revolution, a visibility project featuring women 50 and over who are quietly making a difference. And I am very proud and honored to be part of that group. After 40 years of working, she redesigned her business to help authors, speakers, and small business owners pull together all the parts of their stories and mix tried and true strategies with new technology to be visible and connect with their perfect audiences. So without further ado, let's meet Donna.
Hey,
How are you?
it's good to be here, and I'm honored to have you be part of the Real 50 Over 50.
I was, as people were like saying, "Hey, Iris," I was kind of looking at it and tearing up because I forget that I'm over 50. So there's that. Right? Because it's so funny because and sadly, any of my relatives that are around uh are not sadly, but like, my mom, my aunt, those people are gone. And I have one cousin who, like we kind of laugh because it's like, what is it supposed to feel like? You're over 50,
But
okay.
that's part of this. It's about sharing the stories of the things that people don't tell you.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
But I find that the funniest thing for me is that I still feel like I'm 30, except when I get up certain mornings and I'm like, oh my God, my freaking back, or, whatever. Right. But other than that, I still feel, I get with my band and they like kind of laugh at me because, I'm 63 freaking years old and I'm like wailing on my guitar and they're just like, we can't, that doesn't register for us. I'm like, it doesn't register for me either.
Yeah.
Until I think the last rehearsal we had, I was like wailing and I woke up and I'm like, man, my rib, like my rib cage was like sore and then I'm freaking out and I'm going, oh my God, do I have, what is this? Where could this be? Because we never know, right? At our age, we never know what the hell it could be. So I'm like, what's wrong? And I'm touching this side and I'm touching this side. And then I'm like, oh, wait. And then I pulled my guitar out and I put my guitar down.
Yeah, I've been smashing a guitar against my side for 3 hours.
Well, it was lower than I usually have it. So that was it. So at our next rehearsal, I raised it up. I said, I'd like my ribs not to feel like they were caving in. But anyway, so let's talk about all the things. I mean, the women over 50 thing is phenomenal. To be visible, like, all of it. Let's talk about you and all of the amazing stuff that you've done and are doing.
Okay, where do you want to start?
You tell me.
You want to start in a small fishing village in Brooklyn?
Well, I mean, we can do that with Sheepshead Bay.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's where I hail from. And I slowly made my way north throughout my life. And now I live in Westchester, which is about an hour north of the city. And I started working in law firms in 1983 and slowly made my way up the ranks there too. And after 27 years of that, I left as a project manager. I worked back and forth between the finance department and the marketing department. And I did a lot of PR work. I did training, corporate trainings. I built training programs. I implemented their financial services applications. I did a million different things. But when my son was about 4 years old, I realized I was never going to know him. I'm a single parent, and I lived an hour away, and I was working crazy hours, and I was working part-time, and my part-time schedule was about 50 hours a week. So I was like, I'm not even going to know this child. I lived in a place where I didn't know anybody, and I was like, this is just not a long-term solution anymore. So I walked away from the very secure golden handcuffy kind of job, and I started a virtual assistance business in 2006 when nobody knew what a virtual assistant was.
No.
And I would go to BNI meetings, and there would be like plumbers and insurance salesmen and like mortgage brokers there. And like they had no idea what to make of me. So they would like ask me to do like weird, odd jobs for them. And I was just willing to do anything where I could like keep my clothes on and not have to go back to the city to go to work, so I could be around for my child. So I like organized misfits. I cleaned out closets. I prepared tax documents. I got paid $75 an hour to put footers on documents. I helped somebody move their office. I did everything, but I was not a virtual assistant. And then I went to my neighbor's house for a New Year's party. And I walk in, and it was a snowy, cold, miserable day. And there's a woman standing there, and she's wearing no shoes and gloves. And I was like, that's the one I want to talk to.
Right.
And it turns out she's a hand model. And she had just launched a line of anti-aging hand care products that were very expensive, like mortgaged her house to do this. And I started working with her. And because hand models don't do anything, I learned how to do everything. So I learned SEO. I brought in all of my PR experience. She was paying a PR agency $5,000 a month to get her into magazines. But this was like early days of social media. They didn't know how to use it. So they were trying to get me to show them how to use social media for free. And I was like, yeah, why don't we turn that around? Let's flip that story. Why don't you fire the PR agency?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what she did. And I took all of this great PR that they had gotten for her, and there were zero results. She was selling nothing. And we sold over $100,000 of hand cream in 8 months with no budget.
Wow.
And I was like, well, maybe I got something here. So what it was putting together social media, SEO and content development, and PR. And, this was in 2009, 2010. Nobody was doing this back then. So I started to do this for clients. I had no idea what I was sitting on, and I was not charging enough money.
Yeah, SEO was so different back then. It was just so different.
Yes and no. I mean, it's still the same stuff you need to do. You need to format your content a specific way, and you need to, it's gotten more sophisticated, and the tools are better and more attainable. But, so much of it is still the same too. You have to know the structure of how to write. And, I mean, I was just reading an article today, and it said in the article that like one of the things, like the low hanging fruit of SEO is just to use alt image text. And like people are still not doing this.
They're not. So, okay. So I will tell you a story about, I was working with, a designer on my site. And I was talking to somebody because I needed SEO done on it. And we built the site. There's Yoast and all that crap, and Yoast helps, but you still have to put the alt, text things in there, especially, you want to be ADA compliant too. And that's another story. Mm-hmm. But, so she's like a real stickler on ADA compliance. And when she went through, she was like, not one picture had alt text on it. And, I forgot about it. I didn't even think about it until then. And I was like, oh man. So any site we build now is built with SEO in it. I mean, there is alt text. We make sure, because whether you're providing SEO services or not, you still need to build the website so that it's SEO friendly, so that Google can read it and they don't just look at your blog. Because with Google Analytics 4 now, right? G4, it's completely different.
Yeah.
You can't see that people are coming in from Facebook unless you put in that you want to see that people are coming into your website from Facebook. And they really look at, when you look at the analytics, well, your blog has had like 500 hits and we've loaded it 500 times because we can actually make something of it, but the rest of your site isn't getting loaded because there are no alt text images. I actually started putting Accessibility on all of our sites because of that,
what
as well. Accessibility.
Okay.
So it's I should get them to sponsor my show. No, I'm serious. It's a widget, right? And it does there is some back end stuff, but I don't know what company out there, and if anybody does, please let me know. But I don't know what company out there does the actual hard back end work for a site to be ADA compliant. If you go to my website, you'll see a little guy on the left-hand side, and then you click on him, and then, there's different tools. There's tools for ADHD. There's tools for cognitive disability. There's tools for, you know what I mean? So that anybody can navigate the site.
Okay.
So, and that really means a lot to me because I don't want anybody to come to my site and not be able to feel comfortable and navigate it. In any of our client site, I do the same thing. It's like, we're going to work together. You're going to be ADA compliant because, it's important we talk about DEIAB and all the diversity, but the disability or the disabled community is always left out of that.
Yeah.
And they can't be anymore. And now people are suing them. If they're, if you have more than, I think it's like 5 or more 1099 contractors or employees, and your site isn't ADA compliant, you can get sued because they're like people that are sending bots around. And it's, but at the end of the day, why do you want to leave a part of society out? And then, if you want to be, look at it from a financial aspect, you're leaving money on the table that is kind of stupid. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, that's my tangent.
But that's part of what I teach people to do in the Be Visible community. I've been doing this. The Be Visible community that I've recently created is based on a course that I wrote 12 years ago. It was called the Total Social PR System, and it was a combination of the SEO, the social media, content development, PR, and I taught people how to do this, like small solo business owners. And the people that did it, like some didn't want any part of doing all of that work,
right.
But the ones that did had such great success. And they understood. I mean, the knowledge that you get just from knowing basic SEO skills, it's like having a magic ball. It really
is. And really, if you change the copy on your homepage, that's all you have to do.
Yeah.
And you change it so that it actually attracts your ideal client, Google's going to notice that. And like the traffic to your site is going to increase like that. And people don't get it. Like when we build websites, we're very cognizant of letting or making the client aware of all of these things that are going to help them. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of businesses out there that just build websites and they're like, okay, there you go.
Yeah, but people are going to add to their websites. They're going to write blogs. They're going to do videos. They're going to do all of these things. And without having that little bit of knowledge and knowing how to use some tools that now are basically free. They used to be very expensive, but now they're free or low cost. It's all the difference in the world because it's the difference of being seen or not seen.
Yeah.
Or found. I love when you get found. That's even better.
That's even better. I know, right? And I've been so fortunate with that. I've had people that, I'll be like, how did you hear about me? Some will be like LinkedIn because I'm, like all over the place. But lately it's been like, I found you on Google.
Okay.
I was like, really? You know, I mean, not that I'm shocked, but
Because
to hear that, right?
but when you get used to, using those skills in the way that you create content, you don't even think about it anymore. So you don't think that you're doing anything special or new or like
Right.
strategic. You're just doing what you do, right? This is how I create content. All of these pieces go into it. And then when the results start to happen and people start finding it and you start popping up in like all of this interesting company in the search results, it's like, oh, look at that.
I know.
I'm somebody. I'm in the phone book.
Very. It's so funny, and I laugh because when we redid my website, we redid my branding, my website, the whole thing, and everybody was like, "It needs to be you," because it was very corporate and very sterile, and whatever. Before they're like, "You are not corporate and you are not sterile.
Yeah.
That is not who you are." And I said, "Well, then let's add color or do something." And they're like, "No, it needs to be you." And I fought tooth and nail because I'm not. So it's like a dichotomy. I like being in the spotlight because I'm in a band, right? But when it comes to like, the business stuff,
be a celebrity entrepreneur.
yeah, that wasn't my,
But that's not what it's about. I mean, it's about letting people get to know you before they meet you.
Yes.
This way they can build a relationship with you.
Yes. And so that's how, excuse me, they talked me into it.
Yeah.
So I went down to Charleston because, Kim's my designer. She's down in Charleston. I work with her for all my websites on brand designs. And she's like, we're going to do a photo shoot. And I was like, okay. And I'm used to being on the other side of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Smile, lean this way, put your chin this way, like all the directing stuff, right? And next thing I know, I'm on the other side of the camera and I did not like it. She's like, lean. I'm like, yeah, you lean. I'm not, It's like,
Lean
lean this. So we got it done and the site got up and it took 2 weeks for me to like look at it and not like freak out. It was like, oh my God, I'm like everywhere on the site, right? And then the second week, I was looking at it with my wife. We were in here. I said, hey, come here for a minute. And she's like, what? I said, look at this. And she's like, all I do is look at the freaking thing. What? And I said, I built that. Not the website. I built this business. And it gave it such a whole different perspective, right, of how I was looking at it prior. And then people tell me I'm working with you because of your website, because I know who you are before I even get to you. And they're like, and you are what's on your website. It's like, there's nothing that, like, this is who I am. And it's so true. And I'm so glad that I listened and I did it because me, I don't always listen. So,
So, yeah, but it's so important because we can't be everywhere at once.
No.
And if we can build our assets to build relationships for us, by the time we meet the people, there's no sales process. It's like, well, where do we go from here? I was talking to somebody yesterday because I've been doing so many things. And I basically, I took almost a year off and I redesigned my business because I had built it into an agency that I didn't want. Based on what clients needed. So it was like, sure, I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do this. And I had this massive client that paid me more money, like an obscene amount of money. But what I paid in contractors and taxes, it wasn't worth it.
Right.
It just wasn't worth it. I said, I'd rather work with little passionate people that are like doing things to change the world and work with more of them and be excited about the work instead of getting bungled in this red tape and getting phone calls at 9:00 on a Friday night. And I edited my business and I took out all the parts I didn't want to do. And that's when I went back to the program I created 12 years ago and I dismantled it and I redesigned it into something that makes sense now. And that was where I came up with the tried and new process, because I took all the things that were tried and true and I kept them and I got rid of the rest. And then I rolled in AI tools and like, where can we use them and how can we use them strategically and practically and for an actual reason instead of just randomly asking it questions, to save time, to be able to do more, to be able to spend more time doing the work that really lights you up instead of the repetitive, boring stuff. And it's really pretty cool what I created. And like, I have that same feeling that you have. Like, I don't have any experience in this, but I do. I mean, I have 40 years of experience in it, but
Right.
I didn't realize so much of what I gathered along the way and like how it came together in a way that is uniquely and specifically mine. Like, there is no imposter syndrome because there can't be. Nobody has done what I have done because they have not walked the path that I have walked.
Right. I love that. There is no imposter syndrome because we always talk about imposter syndrome on here. So with the women over 50, what was the impetus for that?
I woke up on February 17th, pissed off because I've learned that what it costs to get a ticket to be a guest in the audience at the Forbes 30 over 50 in Abu Dhabi. It was $10,000 a seat. And I was like, oh, that's not okay. And then I started to think about the 50 over 50. And I challenged myself with how long would it take me to make a list of 50 women over 50 that I personally know that are doing really incredible work in the world. And it took 15 minutes. So then I called a friend of mine who did publicity for NBC and, different media outlets. And I said, is this a thing? She said, it's a thing. You need to do it. And there it is. I started it.
Wow.
So currently, we had our first guest in our first interview in March. Now it is September. We've done, I think, 23 or 24 interviews. We've got interviews booked all the way into June 2024.
I know, I'm in March.
Yeah, every week, every Wednesday at noon Eastern time, I do them live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And we have a collective reach of over 700,000 people.
Wow.
So they're all women over 50 that are, they have some kind of small business. Some of them are still working in corporate, but, they're kind of outliers.
Yeah.
And they're doing work that is interesting, that is meaningful. And one of the things that was really clear to me when this was coming together was that it needed to be pure. That was the word that kept coming up. This isn't about pitching stuff. This isn't about like, here's my PDF, download my crap,
Right.
None of that. This is about showing up, being supportive, sharing what you do simply because it helps people. And we've got at least 8 people that help people heal from trauma. We've got financial experts. We've got lawyers. We've got one woman who survived cancer twice. Another woman who ran her first marathon at 52 and then created an arm of her business, which was a business that she'd had for 30 years, where she supports women and helps women. What she does is she has this organization where she helps women empower other women by investing in each other. So to keep the money flowing in women-owned businesses. And what she did was she created another arm of her business where she wants to do every sport that there is. So she invites women to go with her. So on her website, she's got 2 lists. One is adventure sports and one is regular sports.
Nice.
And now 2 of the women, now she met somebody else from the group and they're going to go skydiving together.
Wow. And there's 2 things I can't do: skydiving and scuba diving. Those are the only 2 things. And it, like, physically, like medically, I can't. My doctor was like, those are the only 2 things you can't do. I'm like, okay, fine. But I think that's amazing. I mean, it's like, I think when I hear women uplifting women, to me, that's such an amazing thing, because years ago it was an anomaly.
Yeah.
Years ago we had women. Weeks ago, I mean, it's true. I mean, it's still happening now. Women tear women down.
They do.
They don't build them up. They're jealous. They're petty. And it's like, why? Like other marketing agencies that I speak to, right? It's like, we're in a more collaborative frame of mind now, where it's not competition.
No,
it's not about competition anymore. It's about building each other up. You're a marketing agency. Awesome. I offer a shit ton of, and I don't mean you, I just mean like in general, right? It's like I'm talking to these other marketing agencies. Well, we're competing. No, dumbass, because maybe somebody doesn't fit me and I can send them to you. But guess what? Now, I wouldn't send them to you if you would, no. So I will figure out a way to help them, because I will not send them to you. Yeah. And it sucks that, there's that frame of mind. And there are other people that are in marketing that I'm like, absolutely. Hey, this isn't a good fit, but I know somebody who is, and just, pass it back. Or you can brainstorm. Hey, I have this client and this is like a real, tough thing I'm trying to work on. Have you done this before? Yes, absolutely. And it works both ways. So, with women, instead of being jealous and you're going to steal my man or you're going to steal my woman because, or whatever.
Money.
Yeah. Right?
It's food out of my baby's mouth. Oh my God. Yeah. Well,
excuse me.
Some people are just more evolved than others. And those are the people that I want to play with.
Well, yeah. And that's, and that's why.
Yeah. I really, the only time I use the word competition is when I'm doing SEO research.
Right. I mean, you have to, because you have to know what they're doing. And
yeah.
And the same thing with TV advertising. I have, a client, and we just shot a commercial for him, and, we're putting him on, and, ethically, you don't want to put two of the same types of business in like a commercial spot, right? You don't want like a commercial break and then you have two of the same. So we, they're in the same show, but they're not in the same, spot. Mm-hmm. And, he was kind of like, well, why? Like, why can't I be in that same thing? And I said, because you wouldn't want it done to you, right?
Okay.
It's kind of like oh, yeah. And, stations shouldn't do it. They don't for the most part, but some do. Some don't care. They're like, okay, you're going to do a contract, we'll do whatever you want. And I'm finding more and more that there's more of an ethical piece to things, that people are actually running on ethics rather than greed, which is so, it's just so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's refreshing to see that, right? That, people's mindsets are changing a little. So it makes me feel good. Well, so we know why. Go ahead.
I also think like this younger generation that's coming up now, they think differently than we were raised.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And, they're just not going to put up with what we didn't think we had a choice to put up with.
True.
We had to turn 50 to realize we don't have to deal with this shit.
I think for me, it was like in my 40s, I was just kind of like, I'm getting done. Like, I was just like, because I'd be working for different companies and I'm like, why was this okay? This is not okay. Yeah. And I would like leave. And, I remember I was working for one company and they hired me and my boss hated me because I was better at the job when she was, and she was afraid that I was going to take her job. And I was like, I don't want your job.
Oh my God, I've been in that position.
I don't want your job. So calm down. And she just so I quit. And then I ended up getting a job for like 20 grand more across the street.
Yeah.
And
I've been in that position with clients too, like with their team. The team was resentful of me. I was like, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want your job.
And one guy
who your job better.
I have a prospective client who's like, the staff is afraid of you. And I'm like, why? Because they know that we're going to be successful and they're going to have to work more. And I'm like, why would you keep that fucking staff? Pardon me. Go take a drink of wine, Michelle.
Back in my law firm days, people would come up to me all the time and tell me, "Stop working so hard. You're making us look bad." And I was just bored. I was bored, and I was like, I need to do other things. So I would find other things. But that ended up getting me a job that was created for me, which never happened in law firms because they go by it worked in 1947. Why change it? And and they actually created a job for me that I was able to decide what that job should be based on my own strengths. And I had no idea what I was doing. Like I didn't have my strength finders and my Colby done, but it was just, they recognized that it was in their best interest to keep me because I should have been making like $200,000 a year more than I was, because what I was really doing was organizational design, but I didn't know what that was either.
Right. And that's the thing, right? When you look at, you look back, hindsight, right? And you're kind of like, close this because I'm going to look very angelic in a minute. And I'm not.
Let's not confuse anyone.
I know. We don't want to make anybody think anything that's not real. The stupid thing does. And I just not sent it over. Okay. There we go. Okay. Hindsight is 2020 because we look back and we're like, oh, technically this is what I was doing, but we didn't have a name for it. And now, there is a name for it. You're like, shit, I should have been paid like you said, 100,000, 200,000 more a year for what I was doing. It's like, what the hell?
You know what? Like, I don't regret any of it because, I always knew it got me to where I am. But when I took this time off to kind of really do this life and business review, it helped me like elevate how I felt about myself and my skill set and my abilities because, I saw what I was doing with no education, no training, nothing. I mean, there was just like, here, nobody else could figure this out. It's yours now. No resource. But I did it. I found a way, and I always found a way. And I, when I took this time to really think through it, because I wasn't in crisis mode, I was like, okay, so what can I do with this skill that I have and with all this experience that I have? And there's like basically everything that I like doing, that I have been doing and I have an experience in is really valuable right now. Yeah. And how can I tie all this together in a way where I'm maximizing my effort and I'm maximizing, the impact that I could make and doing work that I absolutely adore doing that I can like do without like, it just comes naturally to me. Yeah. And I built it. I built it into 3 different things.
Which is amazing. So, we answered why you became an entrepreneur. We know that, but what advice would you have for somebody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, who's like sitting here going, man, I'm unhappy in corporate, or I just got fired, or, whatever?
I would say, first, I'm going to say when I say this, anybody who is taking this advice, their initial reaction was like, I don't have time to do that, but stop first and do an assessment of who you are, what you have, what you enjoy, what you want. Figure that out first and then build it. Because otherwise you're going to be listening to other people that don't know you, that might just want to take your money. Right. That the predators are out there. They're just waiting for somebody who left corporate, who has a big fat bank account and no idea what to do. So take the time to really, go sit on a rock somewhere with a notebook and figure out all the things you do. Brain dump. What do you want to do? What were the things that you hated about your job? What did you love about your job? When I took the time to do this, I mean, it happened accidentally through the years. But when I sat down and intentionally did this, it changed my relationship with myself. I had so much more respect for myself because I was always going from one emergency situation to another. So, my skills were not acquired in any organized or planned way. It was just, my life was in turmoil. My work was in turmoil. Everything was, a shit show. So what do I have to do? Like, how do I keep the plate spinning? Right. But I stopped and I was like, no, I'm tired of spinning plates. I'm going to build what I want. And it's really empowering. And when you could do that from the beginning, you won't make the bad investments. You won't plow through your savings, and you'll build something that's really meaningful. That is, something that you can be proud of, something that you can feel good about, and something that really helps people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I love asking that question because so many people answer it differently, and I like the stop. I mean, if they're in the position to be able to do that, right? Because there are some people that maybe don't have that like cushy cushion, and they have to figure something out. So what about for those people?
Do something temporary. I mean, what is it that you did in your job? Could you do that on Upwork? Can you do it on a consulting basis for a short period of time? Can you get your job to hire you back as a consultant to finish up some projects? That's what I did. I did that for 6 months, and that was a big help. But I hated it. And I was invited to do more, but I said no because I realized I would never get my business going. Right? But like what I did when I started my business, I was organizing closets, putting footers on documents. It wasn't what I wanted to do, but I just did what I had to do in the interim. And there's so many things that you can do. More now than there were then, and so many of them are remote, so you don't have to go anywhere, and that gives you you don't have to spend time commuting, so you can actually spend time building your business while you have some income coming in. But if you don't stop and intentionally build the business that you want, you're going to be rebuilding it,
right? And rebuilding it, and that's kind of what happened to me when I took this back over, because I was in a business relationship that it didn't work out. I've had gas stove for 10 years. And last year it was like, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to make this? Because I needed it to be, more than what it was. And I didn't know what it looked like. It was really funny because I kind of did what you said. I just kind of, I had a client who's a bank who needed all the things. So I did all the things, right? They needed, promotional items. Like if you ever would have told me I'd be doing promotional items, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. But it was great. It was like, okay, you need that, whatever you need.
Squeeze balls.
Yeah, they need squeeze balls. They need, banners. They needed tents. They need, all these different things. They also needed, advertising pieces, right? So like brochures and banners and all these things. And I found myself, being this like all-in-one marketing solution. And I think in November, it was like, oh, you idiot. You're all-in-one marketing solutions for service-based businesses. Duh. And it was such like but it took me like those 5 months to really kind of get into the groove, because I have no employees. I work with all contractors. So it was determining who were the best of the best. Who would I work with? Who would I let do my stuff? Because, I'm high maintenance, right? And so if I'm going to be high maintenance for me, I'm going to be even more high maintenance for my clients. So I went out, found the best of the best, and just really stitched everything together. And it's been incredible.
Yeah.
And I had one client, I think 2 weeks ago, go, well, you only work with contractors. So there's like, no staff to listen to you. And I said, but it's not about staff listening to me. It's about getting the job done.
Yeah.
So I said, well, clearly we're not a good fit. He goes, what do you mean? I said, if you're worried about who I have working for me rather than what is this project going to look like when it's done, then we're not a good fit. And to be able to recognize that. But there was a time where we wouldn't know that, right? We'd be like, oh, okay, whatever, and then do whatever. And now,
Somebody reached out to me yesterday and wanted to connect me with somebody that she knew that has a product. And I was like, first I said yes. And then like within 5 minutes, I responded back. I said, I'm probably not the right person because I work with service-based businesses. I don't work with products, and I can work with products, but it's a whole other thing. And I really don't want to do that. And in the past, I used to say yes to everything. And, that's how I got myself painted into this agency that I didn't want. And I had all of these expensive contractors, and the client was like off the rails. And, everything was out of scope, and they were on CARES Act money because they were a nonprofit. So I couldn't go back for any more money. And they were just like changing stuff and then telling me after they changed stuff that they changed it. And we were building, I was working on 9 different projects with them. And it was insane. And I was like, I don't ever want to do that again. I would rather work with really small businesses with people that can make decisions immediately.
Right. Instead of having to, yeah, no, I get that. So what are some obstacles that you've gone through that maybe, either that you've overcome, you're still going through it, that, some seasoned entrepreneurs or, business owners are going through?
Well, when I first started my business, I, of course, made the investments in the wrong coaches and things like that, as we all do. And, I like one of the mistakes that I made is saying yes. When I first started my business as a virtual assistant, I had 72 items on my list of things that I could do. And, that was a mistake. Like, who wants to do all of those things?
Right.
So like I've really narrowed it down, and I realized that it's about so much more than money. Because being a single parent, my son is in college now, so it's easier. He's not here every day. I don't have a house full of little boys running through and stealing my internet and things like that. But, I have more control over my life and what I want to do and what goes in and out. But I was making decisions like on a depletion of energy between raising a child alone and, having a business alone. And, through the years, there have been other things I had to handle, family members and illnesses and all of these things. And you don't realize the toll that it all takes on you until you stop.
Yeah.
And I had a health issue that I had to deal with that I'm still dealing with. And, that's really eye-opening too. And it's all a culmination of the way you didn't take care of yourself for 30 or 40 years.
Right.
And, you really need to remember to do that. It's important. It's part of it. And it's not something that you save up to do. It's like you have to do it every day.
Right.
And learning how to put myself first is a challenge because it's not anything that was ever available to me. I was always taking care of somebody. Yeah. So in my 50s, I had to learn how to tell everybody to go scratch and take care of myself.
Wow. And it's, you said that, we have all of these things that we have to deal with on top of, being an entrepreneur. And, you talk about the health thing. The health thing is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I have the podcast, because I told you I had that COVID thing. And for me, it wasn't the, oh my God, I'm going to die, I'm going to do something now. It was the, oh my God, I'm going to live. Because I didn't know I was waiting a year to die, right? Which was insane. But then it was like, I'm doing all the things. And that really does change your perspective on stuff. Kind of makes you really take stock of stuff. So,
and how you spend your time.
Oh, which is the most important thing. We just got back from Disney. Oh my God. It was amazing. I don't like I love roller coasters, but I'm I developed this like fear of them. So I went on them. I'll send you the picture of Heather and I with her hands up and me going, ah!
You did. You said
we're going around the curve. I'm like, I'm gonna die. So you'll get a kick out of it. But I was like, we were there and I'm like, I'm doing the things. I'm not doing the things, because what if I don't, get a chance to do it again, right? So I just wanted to do all the things that I could actually physically do. And then, and I did it. But by the fourth day, because we had a 4-day pass, by the fourth day, my feet were so freaking sore because we did 23,000 miles one day, 23,000 steps one day, 24,000 steps another day. It's like 8, 9, 10 miles, right? So by the fourth day, I looked at my wife. I was like, I got to get like an electric vehicle. I can't even believe this. So, I get one, and you talk about a change of perspective. First, we were like making fun of it. She took a picture of me and I'm like, like this. By the time we left the park, I was so annoyed because the lack of respect that you get sitting in one of those freaking chairs, it blew my mind. I mean, it blew my mind. And one guy just like walks in front of me with his stroller. And I'm like, dude. And he goes, hey, we're all trying to get by here. I'm like, you literally walked in front of me and I could have hit your kid's stroller. And he goes, be better. He goes, you're not being better. I said, I'm not being better. He goes, shut your mouth. I said, shut my mouth. So then the Disney lady comes over and she said, so we're at Disney and everyone's going to be happy and get along, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
And you punched him.
I wanted to fucking punch him. I will tell you what, have another drink, Michelle. Every time I say the word, fuck, my friend Michelle drinks a sip of wine. Well, glass of wine, I don't know. But I was so pissed off because it was like, they're not even watching. They're not even watching. And then this like guy who was much like, I didn't belong on that chair. Like I felt bad. I needed it, but I didn't belong on it. If that makes sense. Like my feet, I couldn't walk anymore. Like if we were going to be doing the park, there was no way physically I was going to be able to walk without my feet just like falling off or whatever. So I did it. But I realized it was like, I don't belong on this chair. And then this really old guy is trying to get through. And I said, hang on. So I like zipped around and I cut a couple of people off. And I said, stop, let him through. And he went through. And then like by the end of the park, we have like this little, which I should have taken a picture of. It was like a little caravan of these electric scooters that were all like in a line. It was like hilarious. I was like, oh my God. But the lack of respect that these disabled people get blew my mind. And, experiencing it made me just feel completely different. It was like, I don't want to ever have to be in that position to where that's like, I need that full time, so God, angels, whoever, please listen to that. But the fact that it could be there if you need it is great. But man, it was unbelievable. But it was a big lesson. It made me realize that, I'm sure I was one of those assholes before where somebody's like, and you're impatient, like, oh my God, fine, go ahead. But now it's like, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Just like a complete mind shift. So what makes you different than the other people out there?
There's not an ounce of bullshit to me.
You and me both.
And I have a really unique mix of experience, and I truly, genuinely want to help people. I want them to understand that they can't hand their voice over to somebody else to be them. Particularly if you're a really small business. You just can't do that. It doesn't work. It didn't work 10 years ago. It didn't work 20 years ago. And it even more so doesn't work today because of all of the tools that are available. And, when you really boil it down, you're going to spend more time and more money trying to get somebody else to sound like you than if you actually sat down and did damn work and learned how to do it properly. Understand how the pieces come together. I mean, like that's one of the most important parts because people will spend money on all kinds of things, but everything is siloed. Like nothing connects to anything else.
Yeah.
So, like when I look at somebody's stuff online, I mean, that's the first thing I go look at. Like, how are things connected? Because if they're not connected, they're just paying random various people to do things that they have no idea. So I really love to be able to help people bring all of their parts together now on different layers, like their own story. Um, One of the things that really was apparent to me when I took this break, one of the things that I did was I started creating the mixtape video reels because I had done this for a client. She wanted um, a speaker reel, and she had 6 different topics that she wanted to talk on, but she never did anything but came up with like the title of the talks. There was, I mean, she had plenty of experience. She could have built them out, but there was nothing there. And then she wanted like an individual web page for each one of these talks. And I'm sitting there looking at these blank web pages with nothing to put on them but a title. And I was like, well, I have to do something. So she had written 3 books. I went through her books and I made these little videos in Canva of like images and passages of her books and tied it to the title of what she wanted to talk about. And a friend of mine saw that and she was like, if I had that on my website, it would change everything. I was like, well, I'll make you one. And I made her one. She goes, why aren't you selling these? So it's like, okay, I'll sell them.
Right.
So that's kind of like what funded my year off,
Yeah.
And I started to call what happened was I was selling them originally as mixtapes and as speaker reels and book reels, but everybody who wanted a speaker reel didn't have the assets that they needed for a speaker reel. So what I did was I said, well, why don't we make a mixtape? And it was just like a compilation of their story. And, it's just like a starter speaker reel. But, it takes time, experience, and a good amount of money to have the assets to create a proper speaker reel. And most people don't have that. So this is a nice little way to do that, to be able to share it. And it's affordable and it's all built in Canva. So you can easily update it and turn it into other things. But what I realized through this process was that I was helping people fill the gaps in their stories. And I'd been doing this for years, but I never even thought about it. It was just, I had to do the work. But when I stopped and I started to do these videos and I saw the reaction, I mean, people did one of 2 things. They left and they never came back. I had 2 clients that never even finished the projects, never heard from them again because I showed them something they didn't want to see. And then everyone else cried. They cried because I showed them their story through a different lens. And they were like, that's me? Like your reaction to your website. It was like, that's me? I did that? And I'm working on 2 of them now. I love doing them. It's not like the crux of my work, but, to be able to reflect back to somebody what they've achieved when we're all just mired in what I didn't achieve, it's really rewarding. And it changes somebody when you give them something like that. And I love to help them put the parts together. So there's that. And then there's the figuring out how everything works. And, what do they already have? Everyone's so busy creating something new, but what do you already have? I mean, you've been doing this podcast. You've got a mountain of content you could do things with. And I like the real 50 over 50. I'm sitting here like today, I wasted, like, I don't want to say I wasted, but I lost like 2 hours just thinking, what am I going to do with all of this, And I've got like 23 interviews already done and these incredible stories and not enough people to see them. And, I was like, I've got the skills to do this, but I want to think it through and make good choices. But, just helping people put those parts together, I would say, is what I really love to do. Fill those gaps in their stories, find their audiences, because people don't realize who their audience is. They think it's just potential clients.
Right.
And it's so much more. It's so much more.
It is so much more. And it's funny that you say that because we're going to stop right now. We're booked. I look at my thing, like you'll probably air in January or February, right? And I think we're booked for through October, and then I'm going to stop with the interviews. And then I have my assistant, we were talking about it. I said, I want to start repurposing all, because we have like 60, I don't even know at this point, 60, Kofi could tell us, 62, 63, 64, I don't know, episodes with another like 4 or 5. So I'm probably going to be like 70 episodes. And the beauty of this, excuse me, the beauty of this was that it started out as a podcast for entrepreneurs. I would ask the 6 questions. I wouldn't ask them, like it was still conversational, but I would make sure that I got every single question in, right? And now I don't. Now I kind of let it go where it goes, because people's stories are really what people want to hear.
Yeah.
And I keep getting the comments that I keep getting on LinkedIn are, oh my God, I love your guests. Like, your guests are amazing. Where do you keep getting these people? And it's like, I keep meeting these people. It's like I meet somebody.
But that's what happens when you know your audience.
Yes. And it's like, hop on, be on my podcast. And then I realized, and I'm not, I'm going to say this, and Kimberly Spencer's brain is going to explode probably, but I don't get paid for this. I have like one sponsor.
Okay.
And it may be like what, $100 a month. I pay for each of these episodes. Kofi is my friend, but he doesn't do it for free. So this is costing me, but I don't care, because I know that I'm recording these, because whatever is happening, whatever we are speaking about, somebody who needs to hear it is going to hear it. And that's why, that's why I do it. So
that's how I feel about the Real 50 Over 50 too.
Yeah. And oh my God, I mean, the stories are just, they're incredible. So I'm going to, probably take 3 or 4 snippets from each episode, air it like once a week. And I may take a compilation of, 4 or 5 different interviews and be like, hey, we talked about this, and this. And because there are so many answers to the questions that are similar, but different. There are some that are completely different. And I love them all, because they're just all different perspectives from these amazing people. And it's mostly women. The guys that I have on, I'm really picky about, and I know that may sound terrible, but some guys can be arrogant. I mean, women can be arrogant and assholes too, but I find that more with the guys. Sorry, guys. But the men that I have on are really, they're heart-centered. They really care about what they do. And everybody that I have on is heart-centered, I guess. So, so we're over an hour already, which I knew was going to happen with us. First, where can people find you? CravottaMediaGroup.com, and there's links to everything on there. I'm primarily on LinkedIn as far as social goes, and Instagram. I actually took the X logo off of my email signature today. Nice. But yeah, you can just find everything there on my website. Cool. And Cravotta is spelled Cravotta. Yes. For those who are listening and not watching. Yep. So the last question that I ask all my guests, and first, before I say that, I want to say thank you so much for taking time and spending time with me and my audience. Your time. That's, oh my God, of course. That was like a no-brainer. We could talk for hours, which we will. But what lights your fire? Business-wise or personal-wise? Whatever, whichever, or both. Both. In business, when I have that moment when a client realizes that they had the answers all along and they just needed somebody to show them how to put the pieces together, and they'll never go back to what they did before. I could literally cry. No. And riding my bike. And my son. Seeing my son on stage, because he's a guitarist too. Oh, is he? Yeah. Yeah. When he's on stage, he just goes into,
he goes into this place that's so pure that he has the same looks on his face when he was a baby.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, he's really talented.
That's awesome. You're going to make me cry. Okay, hang on. I'll be right back to you. Everybody else, thank you so much for joining us again for an hour plus out of your day. I really appreciate you all. As I said, I'm not getting paid to do this. I'm doing this because I truly love the guests that I have on. I think their stories are incredible and they all need to be told. And I love that I can provide a platform for their stories to be heard. So I really appreciate all of you hanging in and affording me the honor of being able to do this. So I appreciate each and every one of you. And like I sign off every week, go out and find what lights your fire. Till next time. Bye.